Hello everyone and welcome back to the Motor Trade Mentors podcast with David Gott of the Lovely Car Company, myself, Ep8 of Barrow Motors, and today our guest is my man on the ground when it comes to certain auctions. It's Hamilton James, who I first met and spoke with when I sort of put something on my Instagram story saying, oh, I'm interested in buying, or like, why am I looking at this Porsche 924 at auction? And I got this really like enthusiastic video message on Instagram saying, hi Joe, I'm at the auction, I'll walk around for you mate, it looks really nice, you should definitely buy it. And ever since then, whenever I've got something at auction, I'm like, Hamilton, are you there? And he will check it out for me. So a bit of background for you, that's not how I know Hamilton. He has been more recently started trading cars. He's got a long history of cars. He's got a lot of stories. He's got a lot of history with cars, never mind just selling them. But he was keen to come on the podcast, and I'm sure we can give him some advice, put him on the straight and narrow. He's a bit like me. I think we're like ADHD brothers. So
yes,
we can try and put you on the right path. So thank you for coming on, Hamilton.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, David.
Then let us tell us about Hamilton James cars.
You're absolutely right. This is something I've only got into fairly recently. I've always been sort of in and out of the car world. Previously, a lot more sort of glamorous stuff, so going on launches and stuff like that. But I always had a day job that was sort of, you know, the fallback of all of my car adventures. And the problem was that I didn't like my day job, and I tried many different day jobs, and I hated all of them. So I thought, well, it's really about time I try and start making some money with cars so that I'd actually try and enjoy my Mondays to Fridays. So I started buying and selling used cars. I was absolutely rubbish at it, terrible, lost loads of money, not just my money, other people's money as well, which made it even worse. So tried to sort of hone it in, of which I've done sort of more recently, and just simply started buying some stuff off Facebook Marketplace, and that upgraded into exactly what you were talking about a moment ago, going to places like Aston Barclay and buying through auctions and that sort of thing as well. The big recent change that came for me, having to sort of put cars through MOT workshops and repair workshops just as Joe blogs. You can't buy and sell cars if you are getting repair work done as if you're just any person off the street. It doesn't work. I've tried it, and I've tried many different garages, and I've had deals with them, and I've put thousands of pounds a week through them, and you still get treated like a mug. So the big change came when I teamed up with a guy called Paul, who owns Wincanton Vehicle Repair, and me and him sort of buy and sell cars together. He helps me out with the repair work and the MOT work, and I sell his stuff for him. So that was where the big change came, and that's where kind of Hamilton James Cars, which is my business, has kind of flourished from. So yeah, there we are.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. The expenses add up when you're a sort of private punter. I don't really know what the big difference is because, I suppose you do get deals when you're trade, I guess. Do you feel like you get a much cheaper rate, Dave, than...
I think as well, it's like, I mean, how long were you using them mechanics for, the ones that were pulling your pants down? How long's that been going on for?
Oh, long time.
Yeah.
Long time. Yeah, long time. 6 months to a year. And there was one garage which is literally just around the corner from where I live. I was using him for getting on for a year, but I was putting through consistently about £1,000 a week through him on a good week, or a bad week actually, as it turned out to be for me. I was trying to buy and sell 2 or 3 cars a week, and obviously one to 1.5 of those cars would always need something doing to it. And it just, I couldn't get a look in. And I'm looking at the guy, and I'm like, I know that doesn't cost that. So how on earth is this invoice going? And the worst part of it as well is he'd be like, oh no, this will only be 200 or 300 quid. And then when I get there, the bill's 600 quid. And I'm like, well, how did you manage that? And I think it's just because I always paid it. And maybe he just saw me.
So what I've done with mechanics is I provide the parts, you know what I mean? So I try and get the parts cheap. And then I'm just paying for the labour. I strike up a deal with the mechanics to do just the labour for us. So then you know exactly where you are. And that's worked. I mean, I've never had a mechanic, but I'd love to be in your position where you have. I think you've cracked it in a way. If I was going to go 50-50 with someone or have a partner, it probably would be a mechanic just to take that stress away. And have you found that's made it easier then, the job?
It has. But I will give you a little bit more meat on the bone. So I live in Exmouth, which is sort of South Devon coast. near Exeter, if anyone's sort of that local area. And all the little local garages have all been sort of Exmouth, Exeter, Budley, Salterton, sort of all in around this sort of catchment area. And the reason I found this place, Wincanton Vehicle Repair in Poole, was because I was saying to a friend of mine, I said, look, I cannot get a look in when it comes to mechanic work. And he goes, look, I know a guy, he's really good, take some of your cars there. And if anyone's got the geography hat on, Exmouth to Wincanton is a hell of a trek. It's an hour and a half. So it has helped massively. But it is an hour and a half commuting each way just to get to now where I store my cars and where my yard is and where obviously the garage is. So that has a toll in itself, especially on a Friday, and especially when you have a girlfriend and she's constantly moaning at you that you're never home on time, etc. Because I basically now live on the A303, David. So that's the only real sort of downside to it.
You need to move. It's yeah.
I know, yeah, I know. But it's like Joe, I remember saying this to you. I remember when this sort of first came through. I think this was just before I came to see you, and you summed it up so beautifully. You're like, when you're a used car salesman and you're trading used cars and you haven't got a yard and you get offered a yard, your first yard, you don't ask questions.
Yeah.
You just take it. You just go for it. And it's so true. You know, we've all tried to make it look like we've got pretty premises when we take our photographs and such. But until you actually have that premise and people can come and see you at a business address, it's a big shift going from just taking photographs at nice places to actually having a business premises. A massive step forward.
And how much is that, your premise at the minute then? How much do you pay a month for that?
It's very, very cheap. Yeah. It's very cheap. I mean, it is literally just a yard at the side of a workshop.
And how many cars can you get there?
Well, I can have, in the actual yard itself, I can have about 7. Then there's space outside for 1, 2, 3, 4, another 4 as well, which we've always got filled. They're not all my cars, of course, because Paul, the chap that owns Wincanton MOT Repair, he likes to buy some stuff as well. And we often go to Aston Barclay together. And the other thing as well is that we've started to sort of branch out a bit as well, which is quite fun. So we're not just doing our local Aston Barclay, which is Westbury, but we're going to places like Chelmsford as well, and we're buying up sort of different stuff as well. So we're trying some vans, some ex-Morrison stuff, some ex-Addison Lee Courier stuff, and doing different things as well, which is actually really quite fun. And certainly, something that you guys were talking about a few weeks ago is that when you have those days, like, why on earth am I doing this? Which comes along quite regularly, to be honest with you, in used car sales. Doing some vans is quite refreshing because no one cares about a scratch on a van or a little dink here or a little dink there. They go, it's a van, it is what it is. So that's been quite fun as well.
And have you been selling the vans quickly then?
Yes and no. Yes and no. It ebbs and flows a bit like the cars, I will say that.
I was just going to say the vans, are seem like they'd be really sort of like the great way to go because there's less kind of hassle customers and all that sort of stuff, but you got to sell enough of them and have enough margins in them and somehow get people there to them because most of them aren't that exciting, are they, unless you've got the fancy ones. But
no, you're absolutely right.
I think what you're doing, the sort of scattergun approach, probably works in the early stages. It did for me. I used to buy ex-Tesco chassis cabs and I would put recovery bodies on them and whatever. I was doing all sorts. Anything to make a profit, sort of thing. But yeah, it's tricky when you've got, say, like 10 spaces, and it's good now you've got a mechanic, but I guess you still got to be picky with what you buy. But yeah, should we? I did ask. We didn't actually get a proper sort of form from Hamilton because we just spoke on Instagram. But I did ask him what his 3 big kind of challenges in his business at the minute. So. Number 1 is his operating budget. For example, if you can only afford to buy 2 cars a week and one turns out to be a shitter, massive knock-on effect. 2, trade insurance, because he's currently piggybacking off of the mechanic and whatever, which, works quite well, I guess. And Facebook Marketplace, which is your primary advertising space. And honestly, it's getting worse and worse, especially with scammers. Because you've got a website for when you used to do like media stuff. Just for the sake of everyone watching at home, I'll bring up a picture of you sat in I was going to say Lamborghini, but I think it's a Ferrari. It shows how little I know.
Oh God, I don't have no idea. Oh God, that was years ago. My gosh, that was an awfully
This
long
is
time
what
ago.
comes up when you Google your name. So
Does it?
always
Does it?
worth
That's
remembering.
interesting. Well, I didn't even know. But I haven't done this. This has not been done by me. My
Really?
gosh, what the hell? How
Well, either
strange.
way, I used to do
Well,
some quite good YouTube videos. I saw some of your older videos where you're driving certain cars and whatever, and I thought they were quite good actually.
yeah, I did. I did have a go at YouTube, which is another reason why obviously I was quite keen to sort of get to know you, Joe. And it was the first. You're absolutely right. But the 924 wasn't the first thing. The first thing I saw you post on Instagram, and this was before I knew that you were even local to where I was, which was interesting. I just used to watch you on YouTube and whatever else. And I saw you post, and it was a Mercedes 190E, and it was
Oh yeah,
white.
yeah,
And you
yeah.
posted, do you remember this car? And you posted
Mm.
that on your Instagram story, and you were like, "Oh, I really want to buy this." And I thought, hang on a minute, I saw that on the auction catalogue at Aston Barclay Westbury. And that's when I direct messaged you and said, "Hey, do you buy from Westbury?" He goes, "Oh yeah, sometimes." And that's how we started talking.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's how that all started, which is interesting. But yeah, no, it was difficult, to be honest with you, to try and get a look in on YouTube. I tried really hard, but the problem was I tried a bit too hard. So I wanted to have the best production value possible on absolutely anything I did. So I was doing drones, tracking vehicles, several camera people, really, really good editors. And it was costing me, for like a 10-15 minute video, it was costing me well over £1,000. I did 4 videos. So there's 4 grand minimum. It was probably a bit more than that. And obviously, I'm 4 videos in. There's no way I'm going to be anywhere close to making some money. So it couldn't really sustain itself. So they started doing some shorts more recently. And again, they did get some decent sort of viewership. But it's just the time, I'm trying to do it all myself and sit there and edit and edit. And as I said, I do have a girlfriend. She does like to moan. So if I'm constantly glued to my phone all evening and I'm out in the day 8-9 hours a day, she doesn't like it. So it came to an end once again, unfortunately.
That's fair enough. Yeah, it's yeah, might be something worth doing once you've got time. You don't have to highly
Yeah.
produce them at all. In fact, I think people like it
At the
the other
minute,
way
Hamilton,
around. But
Absolutely.
you need to get sales, car sales.
yeah,
That's it. I'm getting the feeling at the minute you're all over the place. You're trying to do everything. You're living too far away as well. You just need to focus on sales. As simple as that. Nothing else, nothing more.
Yeah.
Forget about YouTube for now. All that stuff will come once you've got the sales coming in. And also, if you do it, just being brutally honest, you and your business partner, and if you've got 10 cars, it is not enough to make a living. It's basically like you doing them 4 YouTube
Yeah.
videos, and it's going to
Yeah.
cost you a fortune just having 10 cars, sharing it with another person. You need to have at least 25 cars on your own to make a living, you know. So it's just a harsh truth.
No, do you know what, David? You're absolutely right, and it's something that I've come to learn. And to be honest with you, the YouTube stuff. I mean, I put that down almost a year ago now, so I've almost started to take that advice already because it's very true. And you think that it will work. You think, oh, there's 10 cars there. There's X amount of profit in that. If we sell all of those in a week and a half, then we can It doesn't work like that. The game never works like that. So no, you're absolutely right. You're both correct.
no, I was just thinking more because when you search your name, that's what comes up is that website with all the whatever.
Interesting. Weird. How strange. But the other thing you were just showing a second ago, which was the Facebook marketplace profile viewer or whatever you call it, that's current. So that's the stock that we've got in right now. And obviously I've tried to make that look as pretty as possible. But again, something that I was talking about on some of my little pain points, exactly that there. Some of the things I was looking at, my pain points, that sometimes when you have a marketplace profile that looks like that, it can often be misrepresented as someone that is a scammer, weirdly enough. A lot of the scammers' pages, they look quite pretty. They've got loads of stock with similar sort of photographs. So that's kind of worked in favour and also against, which has been interesting.
Because you're so fresh and you're like me, bit kind of scatty at times in the nicest possible way, not meaning
True.
that as a negative.
No, it's
You
true.
kind of like, if it was me, I'd be pinning down like, right, how much money have I got to spend? Where am I planning to get?
Yeah.
And what do I need to make each month? And then you can kind of make a plan around it. If it's just well, if you're just doing what I did basically when I started, was like, I'm just going to try it and I'm going to buy more, and that's exciting, and I'll buy more, and never really had a plan.
Yes.
But then I never really needed a living from it at the time because I had my plumbing business. So how many cars do you think at the moment that are just yours?
Just mine. Oh, only a handful that are just mine.
And how much have you got invested?
God, that's an awful question. I definitely don't want to answer because way too much. Way too much. Yeah, no, I've invested a lot and I've certainly lost a lot for sure. But it's starting to get to a point where sometimes it is starting to creep up. But yeah,
But
yeah,
how
probably
much
too
is
much.
how much is your stock worth that you own?
The stock that I own probably around sort of between 8.5 and 9 grand. I would have thought which is what I own, which isn't an awful
Right.
lot. I've invested a lot more than that.
Yeah.
But there is an element that's not including, but there is also an element of what I will earn from selling vehicles for for Paul as well and other people that I sell vehicles for as well, which also makes up quite a big part of my business, and my monthly income is selling vehicles for other people that don't want the hassle of doing it.
Right, I see.
Fair
So
enough.
you've got
And
another
what are you
income
sort of doing
stream
as a
then.
sale or return?
Yeah, sale or return.
Well, I had to, basically. I had to. Yeah, I had to do that. And it's not something I like doing. In fact, I quite detest it. But, if I can make £500 in a week for selling a vehicle for someone that really doesn't want to sell a vehicle because they don't want to deal with the idiots and the paperwork and everything else, it is an income stream. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I think I want to do on this occasion? We did it on one of the other ones.
Go
It's a
on.
bit tricky to know kind of what advice to give because there's no foundation framework exact. Like I do this, I do that, and this is always the same.
Yeah.
So I feel like probably your biggest problem at the moment is the cars that you're buying, the prep that they need, and the potential problems that they're getting.
Yes.
I mean, would that be fair to say?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. I buy a lot with my heart, which is another terrible way to do it, for sure.
So, yeah, I mean, it is. It's all right for me, and everyone gives me a load of shit when they see me buy like a wrapped Range Rover for 8 or 9 grand.
That one wasn't a good one though. That wrapped, but all the other Range Rovers that you've bought, most of the time, have always been good. It was only that wrapped one that wasn't so good, was it?
Yeah, I knew it was not going to be good. So that was the whole
For
fun
sure.
of it. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
a bit like,
but you still like, no.
it.
Do you know what? It's gonna be all right.
But everyone's like, you don't know what you're doing. But yeah, it's all right for me because I can afford to do that for,
Of course.
a bit of fun. I was going to say we could have a quick look through Aston Barclay Westbury on Wednesday and sort of think what I think would be the.
And Hamilton.
Oh, I like that. No, that's a really cool idea.
Hamilton, if I was you, mate, right, what I would do is just stick to the stuff that's reliable at the minute. Like your Fiestas, your Focuses, all that stuff. Just get it up stacked high as much as you can. Turn them over as quick as you can. Grow your pot as quick as you can. Just don't be buying lumpy BMW. If you're going to buy lumpy BMWs, trade them on. Trade sale them. You know what I mean? Sold as seen, that type of stuff. Spares or repairs. I mean, that stuff you don't want to be putting warranties on. But if you want to do it the right way with, nice cars, it's got to be the reliable stuff, the little Fiestas and that, everything under 2-3 grand.
For sure.
And as quick as you can.
Yeah, you got to build it up slow to start off with. That's the problem. It's small margins.
You've got to be patient, Hamilton. You've got to be patient. It's going to take 2 or 3 years just to build it up to 30 grand. But it is like compound interest. Once it does build up, it does get easier, And if you're going to sell these vans as well, vans is, oh God, I'd be selling the vans sold as seen, to be honest. I wouldn't want the vans coming back on me.
No, well, we do that. But then there's a conversation here as well. Once we've had a look, after we've had a look at Aston Barclay, there's a conversation to be having about the whole terminology sold as seen and spares, and see which one is actually, because apparently sold as seen means nothing, but spares or repairs, but they have to pick it up on a trailer.
Not sold as seen, I mean spares or repairs. Spares or repairs.
Spares or repairs.
Yeah, not
cool.
sold
Okay,
as seen.
yeah,
Sold as seen.
sure.
For sure. Forget that I even said that. It's spares or repairs.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's cool, because I thought I might have been missing something there. That Volvo looks all right, doesn't it? No. I can only see a very small screen. Oh, I can see.
127,000 miles. Well, actually, it could be all right.
I thought that looked all right. It's got a good bit of service. It's got a decent lick of MOT on it as well. It's a 1.6 diesel. It's not the best engine, but it's not bad. It's quite a small engine as well.
That's what I'm looking at more than anything. I think when I was starting out, I would want to buy the stuff that had at least 6 months MOT, so I didn't have to deal with that.
100%.
Because
1,000%.
if you're starting out with less than £1,000 of margin in the first place, MOT could wipe that out in
easily,
with no effort whatsoever.
Easily. Who's selling it though? That's the question. TCB Group.
Yeah, that's the car buying group, which is like Aston Barclays, will you buy any car type thing.
Yeah.
So
traders can put their
could be
cars
suspicious.
through there, so that could be problematic.
Yeah. Well, I like buying stuff, particularly stuff that's Mercedes-Benz Southwest. That's probably my favourite sort of my favourite to buy from, because it tends to be people that have obviously traded it in for a nice new Mercedes, tend to be people that have perhaps looked after their car, and they're usually quite low owners as well, which obviously can mean something and also can't. So again, like that Mini Cooper S looks quite nice, but again, it's a Mini Cooper S.
I'd leave that.
I know.
You're buying with your heart, not your head. You need to be buying
not with a Mini Cooper S, but still.
Honda Jazzes, stuff like that, just boring stuff.
Yeah.
Boring stuff.
Yeah, you want a forecourt of cool stuff and stuff that makes it fun to drive home, but that comes with time.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
I'd be all over this i10.
Let's have a look at
it looks quite nice in black.
Yeah,
1.2, 118,000 miles, but
it's not bad.
It does need an MOT, but it's an i10.
It's an i10. It's got some service history as well, by the looks of it, didn't it? Just then have a bit of service history.
Yeah.
And it's a 64 plate. Yeah.
Only 2 former keepers.
Yeah.
The fact that you could buy that for under a couple of grand.
Yeah, that's decent.
Great car.
What would you guys have been retailing that for then? Sort of like 3,495 or something?
It just depends what it says on Auto Trader.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, so 3,3 it's saying there, isn't it? Thereabouts. That's
so it's saying cap cleans 2.2. I bet you it would. What do we think? Stuff's still quite strong, isn't it? I expect you'll probably pay between 2 and 2.2. I expect.
I would have thought. Yeah.
Do you know what are the fees on something that's 2.2 at Aston Bartley? Like 300 quid. Do you reckon?
Well, it depends. It depends how much you buy. That's the thing, isn't it, Joe? Joe,
right.
what fee column are you on, out of interest?
Not a very good one. They put me on a trial of a better one, and I didn't buy enough.
Did you not?
So I expect it would probably be, if you bought that for 2.2, it'd be 400 quid.
Would it?
Yeah.
Probably.
This is the problem. This is the problem. The fees are going to kill you. The fees are going to kill you. If I were you, I'd just try and buy private. I'd try and buy private. I really would.
Yeah, I did that. I did that for years. I did it for absolute years. And the problem is that you that you waste a lot of time. I found.
It. No, you're right.
So I'd be going to places. You do waste a lot of time. When I go to Aston Barclay on a Wednesday, I know I'll be coming back with a couple of cars at least most of the time. So there is that. But the other thing as well, I don't actually know, David, forgive me. I really do apologise. I don't actually know where you're based.
Chesterfield, Sheffield. So Aston Barclay for us is Donington.
Sheffield.
So we get but you've just hit the nail on the head. The best thing about going to the auction is you can get 2 or 3 cars and then bang, you've got them. But yeah, I'd be looking at the budget sales and you've just honestly your margins are going to be so tight. But like we always say, if you just keep the cash flowing, like your business will start to grow. And just the thing is, it's speed of sale more than anything. So you're wanting stuff that isn't going to break on you, like Joe's saying there, the i10s, Fiestas. Don't go near the old Minis, absolute nightmares. This BMW Merc stuff, I'd leave that. I just like courses, they go out quick.
If David, if I told you that I had 2 Range Rovers in stock right now, 2 old Range Rovers, you would probably flip a lid, I'm sure.
Yeah, because we've all made the mistake.
Mate, I've been there. I've absolutely been there as well, to be honest with you. So yeah, no, I know it's not smart. It's not smart.
The thing with Range Rovers, especially when you're starting out, you think, "Ooh, I could have a couple of grand out of that, or 3 grand out of that," which is twice as much as I normally get.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, you end up selling it for a loss just to get rid of it because no one wants it. It's everyone else is scared of it, which is why I think like that.
Guys, I'm really sorry. I keep getting phoned, and I think there's someone at my door. Can I just quickly go and tell them to F
Yeah, of course
off?
you can.
Is that all right? I really do apologise. I'm so sorry.
What a character, mate. What an absolute character. Yeah, he needs to be buying all the cheap stuff, just like the cheap, simple stuff. He's got the passion, the drive for it.
It's too
Right,
excited about
sorry
it.
about that,
Yeah.
chat.
Problem.
I do
Was it someone?
apologise. It was, yeah, no, but it was only a delivery, so that's fine.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
okay. That's all good. But no, you guys are absolutely right. I need to buy, and the thing is, I go through phases of doing that. So a couple of weeks ago, I bought a cheap diesel automatic Golf, which actually turned out to be a problem, but that's a story for another day, and a little Mazda 3. And some other cheap bits as well. So I do go through phases of doing just that, and then I must just get bored. It's terrible.
Well, we would do the same, but I wouldn't even necessarily say a Golf was a cheap or sensible car.
No. Well, I thought it was. I thought a cheap diesel automatic Golf. I thought that's just a win-win-win. But every automatic Golf of that generation, sort of 2010, 2012, they all seem to have issues. Those automatic boxes. I don't know what's wrong with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you live and
Yeah,
learn.
I would stick. Automatics are great, but I would stick with manuals to start out with, just because if there is a problem, say like you bought this Corsa up here, a box is going to cost you 180 quid on eBay. You got someone who can chuck it in, and if it's the clutch is going, a clutch kit for that's probably 30 quid, and you get someone to chuck it in. Whereas if it's an automatic gearbox, it doesn't matter if it's some old Golf or it's a new one, it's going to cost you thousands.
And you know what, as well, if you stick as well to all your cars under £3,000, if you can, possibly, and all of them, I don't know, small or whatever, then when people do come to look at a car, you have got a chance. If they don't like it, you'll get them into something else. So once they're there, they're going to have the car.
Yes.
Like if you've got a Land Rover, a Corsa, a van, a this, a that, you just honestly, you're going to drive yourself insane. You're going to go mental.
No, I do most weeks. David, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And it's such a valid point as well. They come to test drive a Corsa, they don't like it. Well, there's a Fiesta or there's a Hyundai i10, i20, whatever. You're absolutely right. Very good point.
Just do that and stick to one thing.
Yeah, trying to think about it like analytically. I don't know about you, Dave. If someone said, right, you've got 10 grand to spend on stock, there's a balancing act between wanting as many cars as possible, because that's as many opportunities to sell as possible. Keep yourself busy, turn them over into another one, that sort of thing. But without going so cheap that they're just, just too risky.
Problematic.
So I think I try and have 5 2 grand cars that cost me 2 grand.
Yeah.
But to be 2 grand, but still not be like ridiculously risky, it has to be basic cars.
Yeah.
But that's your thing to start out with, and then you get to look back, and rather than trying to you could buy a cheap BMW X5 for a couple of grand, you could buy, a Mazda MX5 for a couple of grand, but you'll end up losing money. And to be fair, sometimes I think you have to go through it and try it.
When I first started, I can tell you every car for the first 2 years. I can tell you every car that I sold, the type of car that I sold, and it was Honda Jazzes, Honda Civics, Vauxhall Corsas, Focuses, Fiestas, what else? Suzuki Swifts, i10s. It was just like what Chop sells, just so safe. And you build your pot up slowly, and then after 5 or 6 years, then you can be like me and Joe, where we're like, oh, we'll buy like a 20 grand car and take a risk on this, and there might be like 5 grand in it, and you'll probably do it quicker than 5 years. I know we had Rory on the podcast the other day, and like what he said about Corsas, when he first started, you get a black Corsa, SXI, stick some different alloys on, just make it a little bit different. You're better off buying something that's reliable and making it look a bit different than buying something that's risky and trying to make a big chunk of profit.
Well, you guys will be really pleased to hear I've got a 61 plate diesel Corsa coming in on part exchange on Wednesday. So I'll certainly start my trend of the little Fiestas and Corsas with that one, because you guys are right, and I respect both of you, because you both make me laugh literally every week when I watch your guys' podcast. So I will be taking your advice on, and hopefully when I come back on the podcast, maybe hopefully I can say, hey, yeah, I've been smashing it with the Fiestas and the Corsas, so hopefully so.
I just thought I'd show you my old
Hang on a minute,
kit
there's an
on my storage yard.
E46
So it
there. No,
was,
I'm joking.
yeah, that was the girlfriend at the time's younger brother's
Oh right,
drift car
okay,
project
yeah, I can.
thing.
So we have. So what have we got? We've got 2 Corsas, a cash guys are good news. And what's the big one? Is that Vectra?
That's a Vectra,
Yeah,
yeah.
great.
Which probably came in
Vectras.
part exchange for a Corsa or something. But yeah, that was
Nice.
my
I like
jam,
that.
really. That sort of stuff. I think you need, and also it helps when you do buy something all the time.
Yeah.
You can be confident in what you're gonna like. Because these, for example, I would only buy the SXIs or the SRIs or whatever.
I'm just going to get my picture.
Go on.
I've got it in a frame.
Go
I'll
on.
get you back.
Go
Go
on,
on
I'd love to see. And the SRIs, those are the higher trim level ones, Joe. Is that right?
Yeah, well, they just got it's just trim, so it's just alloys and whatever. But no one wants the base spec ones.
Right. Let's have a look at this, David.
I don't know if you can see this. So this was my first ever pitch.
Okay.
So we've got Focus,
Yep.
Mariva, Civic,
Nice.
Tigra. Oh God, what were they called? Tigras.
Tigras.
That's a Kia. Oh, it's a Kia. What is it? A Kia. Oh God, they didn't make that many of them, but it had 4,000 miles on it.
No way.
Citroen C1s, all the little cars at the front. So, and you know what I mean? Every week I'd sell 2 or 3 a week, and you just pick them off. Then I'd go straight down to the auction on the Monday, Tuesday, and I'd buy the same type of shit and just replace the spaces, you know. And I always remember my mate, I went to the auction and he's like, oh, there's a Range Rover there for $5,000. Why don't you buy it? And I was like, no, I'm listening to my gut. I'm just going to do this slowly. I'm going to do it slowly. I'm in it for the long run.
There's a better one, look.
Oh, nice. Oh, again. So we got a
All the
Mark.
Corsas.
Is that a Mark 5?
When I said I
Golf?
started out with Corsa Ds, that was really. But I'm not saying what Corsas are what you should be buying. You need to kind of look out. It might be Polos. I think that Polo at the end.
Is it a Polo? I thought it was a Mark 5 Golf. Sorry.
That Polo
No,
would have flew out, Joe. I bet foam melted.
It did.
For that.
Honestly, it did, mate. And I think I saw it on Facebook Marketplace because I used to keep alerts for any cars that came up under 1,500 quid or whatever. And that popped up, and I went down there and bought it privately. And I rode down on my motorbike specifically because I was going to say, oh yeah, I buy and sell motorbikes. So I'm buying this car for my girlfriend. So just fill it out like trade, because that will mean I can insure it going back on my bike. You have to give all that bollocks sometimes. Sometimes you get a feel for the customer, whether they want to deal with trade or not. Because I got them down to about, I think I just said, oh, would you do 1,000 or whatever it was? And they were like, yeah, okay, fine, no problem. So I was like, right, paid them, took the car away immediately, and I came back from a motorbike later. I think I'd sold it like 2 days later for 2.5. And I just think if you're tuned in for what you want to buy, and for me, it was this sort of stuff. Me and Dave say, oh, you wouldn't want to sell this sort of stuff these days because you wouldn't get part exchanges and all that sort of stuff. But I don't know about you, Dave. What do you think about starting out? I don't really want part exchanges, especially not when you're starting out.
Nah, you don't.
Cheap stuff. Unless you could get it real cheap.
There's a trader who still sells all this type of stuff. He sells it from home, and he's got like 15, 20 cars, all the same type of stuff. And it says on all his adverts, we do not take part exchanges, you know, because he knows what he's going to get is like scrap value stuff, you know, and then he's got to go and take it to the bloody scrap yard, and it takes up all his time, you know. Oh, he says, no, we may consider a part X, so be careful with the part exchanges that you take in.
Yeah, for sure.
And do you know what the mistake I made a lot, and I can tell that you would jump at this mistake.
Go on.
Hamilton would be.
Go on.
You've got your lovely little Corsa that's on 60,000 miles and is up for $3,000 or whatever.
Yes.
And some geezer comes in, he wants to part exchange his lovely looking Range Rover.
Yeah.
Because I don't really use this, and I just want the Corsa for my daughter.
Yeah.
And you're like, but you know, they're like, oh, I don't really want to spend any money, so I thought if we could just do a swap or
Swap.
something. But
Yeah.
this thing's worth 6 or 7 grand, and you're like.
So I'll be very honest. I'll be very
Let me
honest.
dump this into a mug.
Joe,
When I used to sell cars from a field, and your photographs, Joe, are resonating with me so much because I used to fill my parents' fields up with shit. Basically, I used to get absolutely mad. It didn't look at. Sorry, I don't know if I can swear on here. I do apologise. I used to get that quite a bit. I used to, I've got a 530D. Can I come and do a straight swap? And I used to do it. And this is back during COVID. So this would be 2020, 2021. I don't do swaps. I just will not do swaps. Someone wants to come and do a swap, say no. I'm ever so sorry. I'll do part exchanges. I don't do swaps. I can offer you this for it, but I'm not going to do a swap. I don't care where the value difference is. I literally very, very, very rarely will I ever do a swap. But although in that case, I'd be very tempted.
Yeah.
well done. Well done. Joe, how many swaps have you done where it's bit you in the bollocks?
99% of them.
Yeah, they're bad news. Even if it stacks up to be the greatest swap in the world, you just say no, don't you? Because you know it's going to be bad news. David, would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. Because the other week we had this golf and the bloke's like, he's like, hello, mate, in it, and all this. I've got this car to swap and all this. And I had a little look online and it had like 12 owners. I was like, no, we're not swapping that. No.
I tell you what, there might be a conversation. There might be a conversation here because you talked about just a second ago the guy that phones up in it, which you'd imagine he's a Birmingham lad or whatever. There might be a conversation here for the geographical differences of what we're dealing with. So obviously, myself and Joe, we're kind of dealing with a semi-similar demographic. Although Joe, I imagine you probably get a few more people from Bristol, places like that. Whereas I'm down in Wincanton, so I'm dealing with sort of Shaftesbury, with sort of Yeovil, these sort of quite country-oriented towns. Whereas David, you're very much a different demographic altogether, where you are sort of because you're Sheffield area, you said. So I wonder if there is a difference in cars that we're buying to appeal to different markets depending on the sort of geographical location of where we're actually trading from.
With the internet, I don't think so.
No, that's interesting. Yeah, that's
I think
interesting.
you get a feel for what sells. For some reason, Mercs just don't sell here, but Range Rovers sell all day long.
They do. They do.
BMWs and whatever. I think you get a feel for it. But yeah, I don't think it's quite as... People look all over now, don't they? So...
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think it probably had more of a difference a few years ago than what it does now. The only reason I bring it up is because I learnt my sort of skills in inverted commas, very much inverted commas, in buying and selling used cars from a guy that owned a used car dealership up in Lancaster. And it's a big used car dealership. He's got about 60 or 70 cars in stock, ranging from all kinds of different values. And for example, something like a Vauxhall Mariva, which is interesting, David, because obviously you had one of those in your pictures. He would sell those all day long. They would absolutely fly out. So I'm there, right, I'm going to buy a couple of Vauxhall Marivas, and I could not get rid of them down in Somerset. And that was the first time I was like, there must be a difference between the sort of people that are buying these sorts of cars in these different areas. But, again, that was a few years ago, so perhaps it has all changed.
It probably just comes down to price or whatever. Yeah, Marivas and Zafiras and all that sort of stuff.
Do you know what? You've just...
Galaxies, C-Maxes, they'll always sell.
You've just reminded me, Joe, right? So there's a trader that I know. When I first started, I went to him for quite a bit of advice and stuff. If you can look him up on the internet, get him up. He's called Brooklands in Chesterfield, right? And all he's done for 30 years of trading is sell Fiestas and C1s and stuff like that. And honestly, he's paid his house off and everything. If you look at his website, he won't mind me saying this, it looks terrible, but he does the cars lovely. He does all little smart repairs, puts MOTs on them. And this man has made such a good living. Like, what I'm trying to get at is, just look at all the cars he's got there. You can do it. You can do it. These are your local cars. That's what I'm trying to say. Your Fiestas, your Twingos, your 107s. You know, this man, he's paid his house off and everything, and he's just selling stuff like that. We all get sucked into this. Oh God, you know, we can get profit out of this. We can do this. We can do that. If you just stick to this one thing.
It's funny, isn't it? You can go two different ways. You can either, like me and Dave have adopted an approach where we're like, you know, and Rory, by the sounds of it, say you sell 50 cars, 5 of them are going to be duds. They're going to give you problems, or they're going to just be no profit in them, or whatever. But you just kind of accept that, and it all kind of levels out at the end of the year. But then you get other people who operate like this, where, and a bit like James, probably, like, you know, minimizing risk right from the get-go, and they don't get the big fat juicy margins like we do, but they probably don't get the warranty bollocks either. So net result is probably the same. Maybe their stress level and blood pressure's lower, you know, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. There's more than one way to skin a cat.
I suppose you got to sell cars for your personality, haven't you? So maybe Hamilton is going to struggle to actually sell these cars because it's not his passion.
No, I think I can turn it off. I can turn it off. You're absolutely right. But then every single person that I know that works in the motor trade used to love cars and absolutely hates cars now. And I'm waiting for that day to come, and I hope it doesn't, but I'm sure it has to. And the day probably comes when you are Monday to Friday just slinging Fiestas. I suppose that's when it has to come, doesn't it?
No, it's
but there we are.
not. It's not. I can tell you from experience, it's not from when you get bored of selling Fiestas. When you
No,
decide
go on.
you really hate cars,
Go on,
when
tell
you
me.
sold something you absolutely loved and you drove it around yourself for a month or two and it was brilliant, and you were like, yeah, I'm going to sell this and I'm going to make $3,000 out of it, and then it just, the engine blows up, or, you know, they go down the road and the clutch goes on it, and it's like, I've been driving that for however long, and they're like, yeah, no, when I've lost my faith in it, I want my money back, and then you get it back, and then you've had to give them the money back, and you've got to fix, and you're just like, I hate cars. That's when you hate cars.
Like,
that's
why
when
am
you
I
do it.
doing
Right.
this?
Okay.
Selling cars and making money doesn't matter what they are. You're probably never going to get sick of that.
Yeah. I've been there a few times. I still love cars though, but maybe it's just gonna. There's gonna be a breaking point, isn't there? There's gonna be a breaking point.
There is.
But you are right.
I mean, I like cars in one way, but I don't. In another way, I don't. It's I still like them. I still enjoy them. If someone said, "Hey, here's a fancy car to drive," I'd be like, "Ooh." And when we get something nice in, I like checking it out and whatever. But then I'll also be like, say we got in a nice little Peugeot 107 and it was proper shiny or whatever. It'd just be like,
You get excited over that.
what we've
I like
got
that.
for
I
a
do.
grand or whatever it is.
Yeah, I do too, actually. Do you know what? We all share that. When we get something in and go, wow, that's so much nicer than I thought it was going to be. And it could be, you're absolutely right, a little Fiesta, a little Polo, whatever. That is exciting and that is fun. Or you get in something that's really got no business of having something. You get in it and you realise it's got a pan roof or something. I love stuff like that. I absolutely love it when you get a really random optional extra in a car that has no business having it. It's one of my favourite things.
Joe, I've last few weeks I've really enjoyed getting rid of all like the rubbishy cars, and we've sort of like scaled it down a bit. I'm not surrounded by shit. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like
you traded a load of stuff out, didn't you, David? Is that right?
Yeah. I'm trying to just like get all this German stuff, and I feel like I've got this new burst of energy. What I'm trying to say is, Joe, do you get like that sometimes where you've got loads of energy and you're like loving it, and then sometimes you're on the floor and you're like, why am I doing this? I'm absolutely fed up at this job.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. Like last week, we sold like 4 in a day or something, and I'm like, right, here we go, it's off again. Right now I can start looking for some cars, and like you say, it gives me the sort of enthusiasm. I sent 4 cars to auction the other day just to get rid of them, and I did lose money on them, but I was like, that's them gone out of my life. And like you say, like you're doing with your stuff, it's refreshing to like clear the dead wood and be like, right, I've decided, for whatever reason, that those cars aren't. There's no sense having 60 cars around you. For 30 of them, you think are like a quarter good. Do you know what I mean? Like as far as sales will go, if you can get rid of them and you're like, right, now I've got space to get more in and get the right stuff in, and I'm excited to see how it will go from here. Then yeah, you get a buzz out of that, and I think that's why. I think probably one of the reasons why I've stayed interested in this job is because there's always something different you can do or try, or another approach.
You're always curious, aren't you, Joe? Like you're always looking for the magic formula, and you always feel like you're like 2 steps away from it in the magic formula, you know. And that's why I've stayed in it.
You're always 2 steps away though, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but you never actually get that step. But yeah, I think that's why I've stuck in it, because I don't feel like I've sussed it yet. You know, like the DJ game, I felt like I sussed that. I'm like, I'm really good at this. I'm like, I've sussed it out. Where this, I just, honestly, it drives me insane that I haven't like, oh God, like hit the jackpot yet with it. You know, I still feel like
Yeah.
I just don't feel like I've cracked it yet.
Yeah. No, I don't either. And I feel, I don't know what it is I'm missing, but I think that's why doing the podcast is really handy. Having had Rory on, who's on his second Lamborghini Urus, on his Facebook thing, he's just got his, and he's bought £1 million unit now and whatever, and he's selling all that sort of stuff.
That motivates you, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, you just think, right, he's having it away, which is great. I love to see it. He's saying how he's bought his, mansion a few years ago, and he's like, nah, I didn't really do it. Now he's just bought a Lamborghini Urus and whatever, and he's obviously doing really, really well. And he started out selling Corsa Ds from a car wash and whatever. So it's like right. So why is it that I'm always like, oh yeah, the accounts weren't so great this month, and he must be making loads. But I think I've had a bit of an epiphany. It's just like focusing on that one thing and making sure you're really good at it.
Yeah.
And I think with his, he probably buys stuff that doesn't need so much prep or mechanical repairs or whatever.
Yeah.
And his stuff might not be necessarily the fastest stuff to sell. I think whatever you start selling, if you decide you're going to like niche into something, it might not be the fastest selling thing to start off with. But once you've done it for 6 months and everyone knows that you're the person for that,
You're the guy for it. Yeah.
Then they will start selling really quickly. You always have to build your own.
And Joe, this is what I'm saying. From looking at Brooklyn's Motors with all the Fiestas to Rory with what he sells, all these BMs, Mercs, there's a pattern that the people that have been successful in this job have all stuck to one thing. And what you're doing, Hamilton, the vans, the this, the that, the whatever, you'll just give up and you'll think, oh fuck it, I'll do something else.
Yeah, but you also can't track what's working and what's not. The other thing is Theo at Bowen's Garage as well. I'll bring their thing up. Their thing is just all low mileage stuff. Like me and Dave have always said, oh, you get something in that's really low mileage, like 10,000 miles or whatever, and you just can't sell it.
Yeah.
Whereas Theo just can't get enough of them, and they'll fly at the door. In fact, that yellow thingy, I sold it to him, 25,000 miles. Just couldn't get a sniff on it, but he'll have it.
Really?
On in no time.
Really?
Yeah.
I have found that to be the case, actually, because when you've got something that's perhaps a little bit older, maybe it's a pre-facelift of whatever, but it's super low mileage.
Yeah.
So you're pricing it in a point where it's as expensive as a facelift version of whatever it is. Everyone just seems to bypass it because they'd rather have the extra 20,000 miles than the car that looks newer. Yeah. I've had that before.
That's always been my theory, but I think if, like Theo, you've got a forecourt full of them, then the people that you're attracting are the people that do value low mileage. They're like, because there are people, like my missus thinks if a car goes over 50,000 miles, it's dead. It's just the cam belt is going to go. It's like it's got a timing chain. Well, that's going to go. It's just they've got it in their head that that's it. There are a lot of people who, it's amazing. You could have a car that's got like 20 owners and has been written off once, but if it's on 5,000 miles, they'll be like, "That's the one for me." That's the That's the deciding factor.
The psychology of people, isn't it?
People are strange, though. People are strange.
We're all strange.
Well, yeah,
we're all strange.
Yeah.
I would say to you that I think you need to just make a little plan, figure out what your exact budget is, kind of work your way out of whatever it is that you've got at the minute.
Yeah.
And I guess until you're doing regular sales of a regular amount, you still probably need to stick with Facebook Marketplace.
Oh, for sure.
I would do more Facebook with your Facebook page thing. I would do. You do put pictures of what they are, and then share them in groups and stuff.
Yeah, I do that.
Before we give you too much advice on who you should advertise with and all that sort of stuff, you probably want to build up with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would take your budget of say 10 grand and split it into, just try and stick to, I've got 5 2 grand cars that retail for 3 grand each.
Yeah.
And then maybe after a month you're like, can I now afford another car? And then you have another one, and stick to that for a while. And it's try not to get swayed by, the BMW X1 that might have a couple of grand in it, because I don't want to dissuade you from making profit on some cars, but as a general rule, I think you're better off, like Dave says, with a forecourt of similar stuff, because then you've got something, if you've got a load of £3 cars and you've got one £6 SUV, it just sticks out like a sore thumb, and it doesn't really seem to make sense.
Do you know what? You're right, and the reason why I'm so happy to take your advice on this for yourself, Joe, is because I know that you've made these mistakes in the past as well. Because we have sat down and we have talked about some of the howling mistakes that you and I have made, which have been so similar.
Well,
certainly you when you're in your
I don't have the Lamborghini Urus and the mansion because he's focused in. He doesn't probably get distracted by doing stupid stuff like I do, and I'll buy that because that would just be fun.
Yeah. I think it might be our ADHD brain letting us down a little bit there as well, Joe. So we've got to chalk a little bit up to that as well, just
There's
tiny
almost
bit.
like no fear of losing the money. That's what I do wish that I was a bit more, and I think definitely you need as well, that kind of. I don't know how to put it, but approach every choice as a business choice, almost as if it's for someone else. Because I'll be like, I'll take a risk. That'll be all right.
Yeah.
And the same thing. That's your strength, though. That's your biggest strength, because you're not scared of making the investments. But
I know. Yeah, I kind of see it as like a bit of a superpower as well.
Yeah, that's it. Superpower, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great because it's got the scattergun approach has got me to where I am, and that's great. But I do feel like if you want to be like a master at something or really good at it, you need to. Because I'll be like, yeah, right, car sales are going well. Right, now maybe I'll do up a house, or maybe now I'll do more YouTube videos or whatever. Or do you know what? I'll open up a van site, and what I should be doing is like, right, things are going great. Let's try and make it a little bit better, step by step. But I'm almost like, right, that's going good, so just completely forget about it and abandon it and move on to something else. And that's one thing that I need to stop. And I can tell that Hamilton's probably like that, but times 10.
I would have thought the house thing would have been a home run, dude. Like, I would have thought that would have been an absolute home run.
Well,
absolutely.
yeah, you would have thought so as well. And I've never made any more money than I have out of buying and doing up houses. But but then that's even harder. If you think it's hard to buy stock for cars, then trying to buy a house that's got some potential to make money on it these days, I find is
it's hard.
nigh impossible.
It's really
tough going. Because honestly, for you to say that was like a sporadic sort of side quest of making money. I'm going to go and buy a house and do it up and sell it. I would have thought that would have been a home run, a complete home run.
I don't think anything in life's a home run. There's no easy way to make money. Like, we're all looking for this.
Don't say that, David. Don't say David. For goodness sake, come on. There's got.
Back to life.
It gets easier. It gets easier, I think, with like compound interest, basically. Yeah, there's no alternative for sacrifice and hard work.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh no, that's the truth. Yeah, that's the truth. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely right. Definitely.
Right. We've this is a bit of a different one because we've just been chatting really, and we didn't have the set questions quite so much. But is there anything you wanted to ask?
For myself, I mean, to be honest with you, I did actually have a bunch of stuff that I wanted to ask. But what we've managed to do is smash all of it out already. And you guys have given me some really, really nice home truths. You guys have given me some really, really lovely advice. Is it stuff that I knew that I had to be doing? Sure, of course it is. But sometimes it takes people, that I listen to on a weekly basis and that I take a lot of, I relate to you guys an awful lot of things. For you guys to say it to me and for me to be on here, it's actually something that, I feel like I'm going to go, right, okay, cool. Aston Barkley Wednesday, hey, there's that Iron Dye i10 that Joe was talking about. I'm going to have a bid on it. I'm going to have a pop on it.
Just drop me a message before you buy anything in future.
Yeah,
and
no,
that's... Like, no.
See, I would love to do that, but I always think that you'd be too busy to, to take
I might be busy, but if I catch it and you're like, oh, should I buy this P38 Range Rover at auction?
No.
Like, no, Hamilton.
No.
Bad boy.
In your
Even I wouldn't buy a
X Gold,
P38.
Joe, I put that Suzuki. Oh God, what was it? Suzuki. Oh, flipping that 4-wheel drive thing.
Oh, Vitara, Grand Vitara.
Grand Vitara. I put one in for £1,000 and it went straight away. So like, get on Joe's Part X Gold. You know what I mean? There's some little snips on there. And if it's coming from me, we'll tell you if there's any faults or anything or whatever.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Well, that is something else actually, which is really good because obviously, David, I've watched you for weeks and weeks, but obviously it's the first time we've actually had a chance to speak as well, which is really cool. So we'll grab each other's each other's details and what have you.
Yeah.
And yeah, as I said to Joe before in the past as well, if there's anything that you guys don't want to go on that is just a bit too, because as I know that you, Joe, you send a little bit out to your partner who is called Sophie, I believe. Is that right? And you don't want to do that so much. And I said to you, I said, well, hey, if you've got anything that's a bit too cheap for your forecourt, let me know and I'll see if I can get it bought for you. So David, I'd say the same thing to you as well.
Yeah, that's fine, mate.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we can do. Yeah, the only problem is that Sophie's like, that's a bit of extra pocket money for her. So
Oh,
I'm
she
like,
loves.
yeah, I might
She doesn't
just...
want to let go of it.
No, she doesn't, and I want to let go of it because all the stress that comes with it. She's like, "Where's the paperwork for this one? Why won't this one jumpstart?" It's just like, oh, I want to send this to auction and forget about it.
You don't need that.
Or send it to Hamilton and forget about it.
Yeah.
There you go. Perfect.
Easy,
So
Hamilton's
man.
like, "Where's the paperwork? Why won't it jumpstart?"
So you basically do a whole day of buying and selling used cars, Joe, and then you go home to how it was for you 10 years ago. It's basically so you go back in time 10 years when you go home.
And she's put them on Facebook Marketplace, so she gets all the stupid questions like, who owned it before? It's like, I don't know. Like, oh, would you better find out? No, I don't. Why would I care?
I don't care.
Yeah.
It's a 1495 car. I don't care.
But I will keep that in mind. I might even have the odd sailor return for you. You have to come pick it up, but
that's fine. I don't mind doing that. That's absolutely fine. That's no problem. You guys have got good coffee over there, so that's all right.
Well, thank you for coming on, Hamilton. I think it'll be an entertaining one, at least. I don't know how much. I think we've given you some just general
good advice,
I would say.
It's like a therapy session, isn't it? It's good to get it off your chest. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Gives you a bit of perspective.
As I said, it's nice. It's nice to get advice from people that I certainly listen to because, I have just been a listener and a viewer for this podcast now for many weeks, probably longer, many months. So it's nice for me to actually come on here and actually be able to talk to you guys and get some advice out, and hopefully the listeners have enjoyed it as well. As you say, Joe, it's been a bit of a sporadic one, but hopefully they've had some laughs too.
But you remind me of me in a way, Hamilton, when I started out, because you're just at the having a go stage. Not saying that you're not doing well with it or whatever, but it's just like, I'll try this, and you're excited about buying everything and whatever. You haven't really got to the right, let's plan to make this a successful business stage yet. You're just like, what can I try? What can what can I do? What can I, whatever. And I think... And
how old are you, Hamilton?
I'm 31.
Oh, so yeah,
I'm a bit too old to be...
I got into selling cars when I was 31, same age. No, 32. So, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I've done it for 12 years. So you can do it, mate.
And you were a DJ before that. That's a whole other cool story that I'm sure
yeah.
people got
Yeah,
to hear
but the great thing about being a DJ was that I could DJ on a night and then sell cars during the day and go to the auction and stuff. So, you are at the minute, it would be good if, I don't know if you've got another, you're doing your sale of return cars, have a couple of other side hustles on the go. I do that a lot. Cars.
I do that a lot. I've got a client, a really, really good... I call him a client. He's a really good friend of mine. He lives in Ibiza, oddly enough. I'm sure, obviously, you being a DJ, you probably know about it very well. He'll phone me and he'll just ask me to find him, the most obscure, random cars. He phoned me about a month ago. He said, Hamilton, I really need a low-mileage, left-hand drive Jaguar XJS. And I need it to be, the nicest one in the world. Which obviously an XJS, it's going to be full of rust. And I managed to find him, believe it or not, a 1989 V12 XJS convertible with 45,000 miles, and it was sold brand new to Japan. It had been in Japan its entire life, had absolutely no rust, and I paid very, very reasonable money for it. So weird finding weird random cars and also selling cars for other people is another revenue stream, which has definitely kept me afloat and probably meant that I could keep taking risks on stupid Range Rovers, which I need to stop doing.
Yeah. You could do well out of selling cars for other people. You could almost even advertise that, but then I think you need to work on getting a little GoDaddy website like What's It had, and we'll catch up again on here officially
Nice.
in 6 months and see what's happened next for Hamilton James cars, or whether you
I'd love
still
that.
Yeah.
got a scrapyard full of Range Rovers.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, cool. Do you know what? That's a plan. I'd love to come back on in 6 months. Let's do it, and let's
Yeah.
see where we got to.
Right. So where can everyone find you then, Hamilton, as far as socials and stuff?
So Instagram, it's Hamilton James Bow, which is probably like the main place for me. Which I know you've put on some of your YouTube videos before in the past when I've done little walkarounds and stuff for you at Aston Barclay. And then if anyone's interested in a scrap Range Rover, then it's Hamilton James Cars on Facebook.
Perfect. I'll put those in the description, and yeah, we'll see you
Wonderful.
in 6 months' time.
Nice one, David, Joe. What an absolute pleasure. Thank you both very
Yeah.
very much.
Cheers, mate. Legend.